Hello, Mrs. Newmeyer, back here again with our orchestra and composer unit. And today we're going to be going over our last composer, Stravinsky, that we talked about in our modern period. Now, if you remember our timeline here that we went over, we went through the end of the Romantic period. Now we're in the early 1900s where we're transitioning. Music is starting to transition into the modern period. Now, this is around the time just before World War I broke out, and Stravinsky is one of the key players that really changed modern music and really led the way for things changing during that time. Now, there was a lot of turmoil in the world, as you can imagine, and I just wonder, he must have been influenced by those sorts of things that were happening around in the world. He himself was from Russia, and then he moved to Paris, but during the time of World War I, he had to move to Switzerland, and later he ended up moving to the United States. And so while he was, during this time, he was influenced by the things around him. Now, one of the things that's unique about his style is kind of some harsh tones that we're going to hear. Some of the rhythms that he used were different, and people were not used to hearing these things. It was kind of a change to what they had been expecting. He wrote for some ballets, and the choreography in these ballets was very different than what they were used to. I have a picture here that I showed you in our first video of some of the costuming the ballet started to use at that time, and the choreography that they used for these ballets was quite different. Now, the one we're going to listen to today is called The Rite of Spring. I encourage you to learn more about Stravinsky by looking at different books. Here's one, for example, that I got from the library, and it'll tell you more about his life and his influences and how he came to write his music. Now, the one we're going to be listening today is called The Rite of Spring. I want to show you this picture in our History of Music book. Here's some pictures of what the choreography might have looked like in this ballet that he wrote this music for. Very different than what they were used to. Some of the tribal influences that he would reflect in his music here, kind of the strange dancing they weren't used to, more rhythmic, jerky movements, some rituals from the prehistoric times. This song you might even have seen before or heard before and seen in the Disney music of Fantasia as during the prehistoric dinosaur part of that piece. And so that kind of gives you an idea of what the sound of this music is going to be like. So we'll listen to it. We're going to be listening to the towards the end of The Rite of Spring. Now, something really fascinating about this, that people were so upset by the new kind of music that they were hearing and seeing in this ballet that it actually ended up causing a riot, and people got arrested. Can you imagine going to see a show or a ballet or an orchestra performance and seeing people break out and getting upset and throwing vegetables and just getting so riled up that people even got arrested? Well, that is what happened during this first performance of The Rite of Spring. So we're going to be going through it. I want you to listen for the different types of things you hear in the music. Here is a listening guide that you can get off of CC Connected. As we go through the music, it can help guide you along and look for the things that I'm going to be mentioning along the way. All right, so let's get to our music. Let me start it here. All right, in the beginning, you're going to hear a bassoon. Kind of starts off the piece here. Kind of an unusual sound at the time. Very high note for the bassoon. And we kind of repeat that again. Here's some other instruments join in as he kind of repeated that. Kind of think of maybe a forest here, some little bird calls. Going to start to hear some violins coming in here now. Some little bird calls again. I can hear how this song is already sounding different than when we listened to like Tchaikovsky, for instance, a couple of weeks ago. It's more harsh, kind of brash tones to this, where it's not as smooth and melodic, but there's just maybe almost a little unsettling sort of sound to it with the instruments he's using, the notes he's playing, the tones that are being created here, which kind of was what was upsetting for this audience. Let's keep going. We have some oboe and flute coming in here now, some high clarinets entering. The bird calls are kind of interweaving in there. They're all kind of coming together now, where it's kind of a cacophony or disruption of voices here. And silence. We get our oboe again. Okay. Now violins are kind of plucking. Something's about to happen. Wow. A whole bunch of violins coming. Kind of ferociousness to those strings. Kind of a repetition going on here. The bassoons play and then the strings kind of back and forth. Stop. Kind of a nice, happy little horn there. Got kind of a rhythmic sound in the background. Kind of growing now. So kind of that rhythmic sound to it. It's getting a little chaotic. Okay, so the rhythmic part kind of stopped, and now we're almost like in a whirlwind, it sounds like. Beat after beat after beat. Here we go. Chaotic, violent, and then it abruptly ends. Wow. Now, I don't know that I feel like causing a riot at the moment, but it was quite volatile music, wasn't it? So much different than what we've heard before in the past, and building up into this new modern movement that changed the way that musicians would do music from here on out. So it's really fascinating to learn about these composers and the timeline of history of what was going on, and how each one influenced one another, and how music then would carry on throughout time to continue to change and come to be the music that we know today and that we listen to today. So I hope you enjoyed listening to this. I'd love for you to take some time now and to listen to it again and reflect on those sounds. See if you can pick out those sounds again that we were listening to and hearing, and think for yourself, what kind of images does it bring in your head? And would you agree? Would you call him kind of like the Picasso of music, where it kind of changed the way that music kind of went forward from that time, and how Picasso kind of had some abstract images and cubes and different parts to his paintings Stravinsky put in his music. All right, enjoy and see you next time. Bye-bye.